Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's Wednesday night, and I'll be talking about mental health tips. I'll talk about schizophrenia because that's what I've got. And I'll talk about mental health in developing countries. That's a cause I advocate for at mindaid.ca. I want to talk about fun. There's positive psychology was founded in the 1990s by Martin Seligman in the States. And until then, psychiatry and psychology had focused on making miserable people less miserable. Positive psychology is taking happy people and trying to make them happier. Positive psychology can work not just for happy people, but for quote unquote miserable people too. And having fun. My heavens, sometimes we forget about that. There is a documentary by Al Nirenberg. I think he's Canadian, and it's called Laughology, and it's really good. He talks about he said he isn't as a grown up lost his laugh. He wasn't laughing as much, and in the documentary you'll see somebody talking about a comedy expert or laughing expert, laughter fun expert, humor expert. He says it's estimated 80% of the population has chronic seriousness. It's a term you don't hear too often, chronic seriousness. I know I was guilty of that for a long time. With schizophrenia, things got serious. It's hard to have fun when you're just fighting for your life. If there's a grizzly bear chasing you, I guarantee you're probably not making jokes. But so many of us, the stats are 80% of us can fall into this. And there's another play expert, he's got a book, and he said people can lose their sense of play when they get older. He says your 60s is often a common decade for when that happens. It's not the only decade, but it commonly happens there. It can happen at any point in your life. But having fun, simply having fun, telling jokes. I want more people to do that. I remember being sick with schizophrenia and thinking, can somebody please make me laugh? Really? Can somebody please make me laugh? Because I had a hard time doing that to myself. So if you're someone who makes jokes, tell more of them. Go out of your way to tell more of them. If you're someone who is not too quote unquote serious, maybe you could try to make more jokes. I made a video on YouTube a while ago now, a joke challenge, challenging people to tell more jokes in your day. So many of us say we all have a sense of humor. We all say we have a sense of humor. We like humor. Some of us say we're quiet laughers. We're not loud, boisterous laughers. But we'll some of us may smile at a joke. It's hard to get a real guffaw out of us, but we all enjoy a sense of humor. But how often do you try to make other people laugh? So often we're waiting for other people to make us laugh. I know in COVID, when the pandemic hit, I said, no, don't rain on my parade. I was doing well those days. I was starting to really do well with schizophrenia. I'm like, no, don't rain on my parade. Somebody please make me laugh. So I went out of my way to watch more comedies on the TV, and I got Sirius satellite radio actually a number of years before that for the comedy. I wanted more comedians to tell me jokes. Just a side note on that, I will get serious for a little bit. There is a comedian, and I heard him on Sirius satellite radio. This is probably after 20 years into my recovery. He was telling a joke where he just went on and on and on and on. And I was listening to it in the car. Tears started rolling down my face. I was laughing that hard. Now, you may say, okay, that's great. You heard a good joke. I didn't have the ability to have tears roll down my face when I laughed for 20 years during schizophrenia. I just couldn't do it. To have tears actually roll down my face at a joke, to feel that good, was incredible. I was so thankful for that. The comedian's name, Bob Marley, not the reggae singer, Bob Marley. He's a comedian in Maine, USA. And thank you, Bob, for making me laugh till tears rolled down my face. I appreciate that so much. I would love to be able to do that for other people. I did start a small YouTube channel called Amuse Me. If you go to mindaid.ca in the About section, you'll see a link to all my links. It's on that list of all my links, my Amuse Me YouTube channel. It's not the greatest humor. I'm trying to get better at my own humor. People complimented me on my sense of humor before I got schizophrenia. Humor was one of the last things to come back with me. It is the timing in humor is so subtle, and I really struggled with it. But in the last so many years, I've been able to get some jokes out there. Some of them don't work. Some of them flop. Say, "Oh, Matthew, you got such groaners." But others are like, yeah, I nailed that one timing, and it makes me feel so good to do that, and I want to do more of that. So I will say my advocacy work for Mind Aid and for schizophrenia and talking about mental health, they are incredibly serious subjects. So I've been thinking for years, how can I inject more comedy, more humor, more lightness into my talks? And I'm working on that. I'm working on that. There is a comedian who's got mental health issues, and he teaches people with mental health issues how to do stand-up comedy. The website is Stand Up for Mental Health, I think. Yeah, he's in Vancouver, Canada, and I think his name's David Groweiler. I forget his last name. It starts with a G. It's Stand Up for Mental Health. I'm pretty sure that's the website. He was on CBC TV in Canada a number of years ago. They highlighted his work, and there's that show you can watch. It's available on his website, and he teaches people. He can teach virtually. He can do his work for you virtually. And yeah, that's it was really, the CBC show was really neat. You see these people, some of them really struggling with mental health issues, some of them deathly afraid to get up on stage, but they do. He teaches them. They get up there. They put on a show for the friends and family, and whoever else wants to show up. And some of them are really nail it. They're good. And even though they're really struggling, and my hats go off to them. I I struggled with with humor during schizophrenia. I really did. I remember probably about maybe 7, 8 years roughly into my disease. I said one day, you know what? I'm going to try to tell a joke. I did, and it came out as cruel sarcasm. And I'm like, whoa, Matthew, that did not sound good. I tried again, maybe a day or two later, the exact same thing, cruel sarcasm. I'm like, okay, I tried. I cannot do it. So I'm just going to stop telling jokes. I'm going to stop. So I did. I don't remember when I started trying to tell more jokes, but I did. I tried to work them in. So that's my challenge to you. Can you try to tell more jokes to people? I really appreciate it because things get serious. You can get into a serious conversation. And if someone just sends, I mean, there's a limit. Sometimes you're trying to have a serious conversation with someone who just can't be serious, and that can kind of be annoying. A few jokes here and there are great. Someone who's constantly joking and you can never have a serious conversation with, or unable to have a serious conversation with them when you want to, that can be difficult sometimes. But the odd joke, my gosh, it breaks up levity. It really or breaks up levity, gives things levity. It's so nice just to. It's a reminder that yeah, life is fun. There can be a lot of fun in life, and try to tell jokes, try to make people laugh. When I with schizophrenia, I struggled. It's the emotion of laughter. I guess I'll talk about it. With schizophrenia, you have trouble with emotions. You've got a lot of negative emotions: guilt, shame, embarrassment, depression, anxiety. All these negative emotions, severe with severe intensity. And it was hard to feel lighthearted, playful, joyful, have fun. So dancing around, you always sort of felt like you're carrying a big burden on your back. You couldn't dance and jump around and tiptoe through the tulips. And to have someone do that to you, it's nice. It's really nice. And the way I sort of came back into feeling more lighthearted and being able to make other people laugh, I started to call it emotional tickling. It's like you're just standing there. You're not physically tickling the person, but you do it with your emotions. You transfer your emotions over to someone. They say that if you look at jokes written out, what you say to somebody through the course of a day that's funny, when you read it back, oftentimes there's no humor in it. It's like it's the old saying, you had to be there. You try to tell a joke, but no, you had to be there. And a lot of that, I guess, is from emotions coming out, just the person feeling playful. And there's actress, comedian. I forget her name right now. She's got a book out, quite popular. She said she went to a comedy camp when she was a teen in California, and some big names were there. Some big comedy people were there teaching young kids or teenagers how to do comedy. And she said there was a singer there, a musician, and she said, "Why are you here?" And he said, "A lot of laughter, a lot of comedy comes from sound, the sound of your voice. The and sound and emotion are pretty similar. Sound and the sounds, a lot of emotions in sound." And yeah, he wanted to talk to them about that. So your voice, how does your voice sound to other people? I know some comedians, their voices can sound kind of angry sometimes, and I like it when a comedian can keep their voice in the more playful, lighthearted range of sounds throughout their performance. So yeah, and oh, yeah, there's this quote. I forget her name. She was a famous actress from many years ago in the 1900s, and she said, "Life is like a game show where whoever has the most fun wins." And I will counter that with Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology. He said in his TED Talk, Martin Seligman's TED Talk, that the best predictor of long-term life satisfaction are philanthropy, using your gifts to help other people, being in service of things larger than yourself. So there's a balance. I mean, life isn't all fun. It never will be. There's a lot of serious things in life, and you have to respect those. You have to deal with them and go through them, and that's life will always be like that. But there's also a lot of fun, and we can forget about that because we get sucked into all these serious things. Our brains can get into the more logical side and less creative. And yeah, so life is like a game show where whoever has the most fun wins. Try to inject more humor and fun into your day. More time just to actually Al Nirenberg, he's got another documentary called Boredom. And I think that's the name of it, Boredom. He talks about boredom in the documentary. And he says boredom, a lot of people hate it or dislike it, but he says it's actually crucial. He says a lot of creativity comes out of boredom. And too often we don't let ourselves get bored, especially with technology and devices and games. The first time we get bored, we start occupying our time. Basically, what he's saying is let yourself be bored. Go into that boredom, be bored. Actually, that's a trait of Navy SEALs. You look up the books by Mark Divine. He's trained thousands. He's created thousands of Navy SEALs, and he says boredom as a Navy SEAL, and I mean, of course, other elite soldiers, you have to deal with intense, long periods of time of intense activity, high intense action. But you also have long periods of time in between where it's extreme boredom, and you have to be able to cope well with both. That's it's a good resilience trait. Can you handle extreme times of boredom? Well, can you occupy your time? There's a book by I forget the book where I read it, but this soldier was captive, held in prison for as a prisoner in a cell for many years, and they asked him, "How did you get through it?" He said, "To occupy his time, he threw a penny into the darkness of his cell and scrambled around on his hands and knees trying to find it. And once he found it, he threw it back into the darkness and tried to find it again." That's how he occupied his time. People, they say, who have richer inner lives, uh, more thoughts going on, they do well. They do better in captivity or in boring times. And people who are good at math or poetry, for me, it was simply reading books. I've read so many books, and I'll be thinking about books to learn, books to learn about how to get myself better, things I'm interested in, not so much books for entertainment like novels. And I'll be sitting there thinking someday, like, wow, okay, that book that I read like a few years ago, and this book I read like a year ago, they each said different things, and then I'll have this brainwave of like, oh, and I compare the two of them, like, oh, okay, this one said this, and this said that, so that's how do I put those both together, those two things? and it occupies my time. I have a great time sometimes just sitting there thinking, because I come up with some great ideas from technically being bored. I can sit there and just stare at stuff, stare straight ahead, and think up stuff. It's wonderful. There's I think it's Brian Tracy. I think it was him who said this. He's whoever it was. He was a salesperson and he taught sales. I'm pretty sure it was Brian Tracy in one of his books. And he said he sits in his car at lunchtime in a park and eats a sandwich and just sits there for an hour. Doesn't listen to the radio, just sits there. I mean, he may listen to the radio, but he just sits there and thinks. Just sits there and thinks. There's a book called The Magic of Thinking Big, and they say a lot of top people do that. They just sit there and think about stuff. And I've had some great ideas coming up. It helps relieve stress. Sitting there thinking helps relieve stress. I will just sit there. I'll just stop. If things are getting too chaotic, I'll just stop and sit down or whatever, go for a walk. But I myself do better thinking when I'm sitting and thinking when I'm just sitting there. Some people do better thinking when they're moving, biking, running. For me, I can think when I'm running and biking and walking, but I can think deeper when I'm just sitting there. What I tend to do most. I wish I could walk and think more, but and I do love walking, and I do have some great ideas in walking. So I will say that. But yeah, it's some great ideas come out. It lowers my stress levels because I get to think about stuff that I've forgotten about. I'll have some appointment that oh yeah, I was supposed to go to that. I forgot to write that down, or I'm supposed to phone so and so, or I'm supposed to do this, or like Al Nirenberg says in his documentary, you start coming up with all these ideas. Things get birthed out of boredom. Actually, I like the sound of that. Things get birthed out of boredom. Rolls off the tongue quite well. There's a little bit of humor for you. A little bit of humor. So I try to keep these around 20 minutes. So I think I'll leave it. Well, I'll wrap up with this. So mental health in developing countries. Some people have tough lives. Some people are kept in chains with mental illness in some countries. And if you go to hashtag break the chains, the link is at my website, mindaid.ca. Hashtag break the chains. The Human Rights Watch, their website, they have a pledge you can sign to help unchain people with mental illness. They're looking for 20,000 signatures, and they're not there yet. If you haven't signed up already, please sign the pledge. They need more people to take more action with this. Robin Williams' son, Zach Williams, is helping promote this pledge and hashtag break the chains, as is Tim Shriver, the founder of the Special Olympics, Allison Janney of the West Wing TV show, the Hollywood actress. And you can sign that pledge. Monthly donations, I steer people towards 8 nonprofits that help people with mental health in developing countries. And these 8 nonprofits you can donate or fundraise for. And monthly donations are really helpful. In the last handful of years, a lot of people are switching over, a lot of nonprofits, companies are switching over to monthly donations. That's why Netflix, Amazon, Disney, all these large companies, that's why they've been switching over to monthly subscriptions. It's a better business model for them. It's also easier on the consumer's pocketbook, your pocketbook. And some of these monthly donations you can give to nonprofits are like $3 a month. I mean, $3 a month to help someone with mental illness in Africa. $3 a month. Would you even notice that gone? $36 over 1 year. Would you even notice it? It's one coffee from Starbucks once a month. Would you even notice it? And Scott Harrison of charitywater.org, he says that for him, he helps people get clean water in developing countries. He says the average person has something like 10 or 11 monthly subscriptions, and he inspires people to say, you know what, Scott, I don't need the subscription. I want to cancel it and give that money, $10 a month, $20 a month, $3 a month, whatever it is, to you, Scott, to help people get clean water in developing countries. And I'd like that to happen with the 8 nonprofits that I found giving mental health in developing countries, mental health care. It's they really need it. Mental health in developing countries is vastly under-resourced. Good news. This is actually a year late that I've heard about this, but I went Googling this today, and about a year ago, last summer in 2021, the U.S. government gave passed the Mines Act, and it allows mental health to be part of their financial assistance, their foreign aid to other countries, which is huge. World Vision, UNICEF, Save the Children, they were so happy to hear about that, because that is a more of a step for these large humanitarian organizations to help give mental health care where they're working already. Those large, like UNICEF, World Vision, they're large humanitarian organizations. Yes, they do need a lot more help themselves. These 8 nonprofits that I found are much smaller than UNICEF or World Vision. They're much smaller, but they are helping tens of thousands of people get help, get mental health care. They're working very well. They're actually Strong Minds, one of them. They have the most cost-effective aid of any kind, and people are studying them now. Like, how do you deliver? How do you help somebody in a developing country with anything, not just mental health, but like water or anything else? How do you do this so cheaply? How do you do it? And there's studies being done on them, which is remarkable. So FindMind, they're another one of the 8. They're up, getting up and running. They're doing great work, and I would love to see more people donate to them to help them get more of a foundation. The other 7 are, well, most of the others are doing have been around for a while. Basic Needs has been around for since 2000, so 22 years now. FindMind, Pavel Repo, he's in Colorado. He founded FindMind, and so help him. What's his name? The actor Forrest Whitaker, the Hollywood actor, most recently in Star Wars. His foundation's working with FindMind. So yeah, that's I went googling today for the why the large humanitarian organizations haven't been working that much with mental health for decades now. I did find an article on that in a year or two ago, and I can't find it again. I thought I had it saved, and I can't find it, and I'm trying to find that article or others like it. It explained why over the decades that just didn't happen, and the things that do need to happen to make it happen. So anyway, but I found that the Mines Act. So the U.S. hopefully, that's a year ago. Hopefully, as time goes on, they will be able to give a much larger percentage of their foreign aid to help with mental health care in developing countries. And yeah, I can talk about more about that in another video. For the now, I'll leave it at that. But I'll say, for people struggling today, who may not have been able to have fun, I'll get somber for a second, and I wanted to say that I'm so happy for what you did today, for getting through today. So happy. I want to congratulate you. I know how difficult putting one foot in front of the other when it's so painful, day after day after day, when every day seems the same. I want to tell you, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for keeping going. You are capable of so much more than you think. There is hope beyond hope. When you've given up hope, there's something else in life. Call it chance, luck, fate, whatever you want to call it. There are other things working to help keep you going when you have given up. There are other things. You can keep going even though you think you can't. Even though you think you can't. Keep hanging in there for one more second. There's a man, the book I think is called 10 Seconds at a Time. I forget his name. He was climbing up a mountain, a day or two hike with a friend. His friend fell off the mountain with the backpack that had all their belongings or provisions in it. He didn't survive the fall, so this one man was without his equipment, and he had to decide, well, what do I do? Do I keep going down the mountain, or do I go up the mountain? Everything said to go down the mountain, but when he did, he said it just didn't feel right. So he said, you know what? I'm going to go up the mountain. He said it seemed like the wrong decision, but it just felt right. So he did. He went up the mountain. He found a shelter. A storm had come up, a snowstorm, and he got caught in that. He huddled in the rafters of the shelter all night, and he counted 10 seconds at a time. He counted to 10 over and over and over as he lay there, incredibly cold, shivering in the rafters. He made it through the night. The wives of the 2 guys, They'd called for a search party, and helicopters came and found him the next day. He learned later that if he'd gone down the mountain, the storm was so bad he wouldn't have survived it, especially without his jacket and clothes and or whatever equipment he needed, whatever. Yeah. So 10 seconds at a time. Can you count to 10? 1, 2, 3, and just keep counting and keep counting. Things will happen. Things that you didn't know will happen. It may seem like forever, but just keep hanging in there. Keep hanging in there. You are a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person. I know your brain may be telling you you're a horrible person, but I want to tell you you're not. You're a wonderful person. There is so much you are offering life, even though you may think you're not. There is so much you're offering, and there's so much even more you can offer when you get up and you're able to be more productive. I know it's hard to be productive when you're mentally ill. I know that so well. I wanted to do more and I just couldn't. So I want to tell you there's hope for you even when you think there isn't. So keep hanging in there. Keep hanging in there 10 seconds at a time. Just keep counting. Keep counting. Keep counting because things will happen. Things will happen. You'll keep meeting people. You won't be isolated from every single human being for the rest of your life. People keep coming into your life and people can help. Reach out to somebody. There's so many people you can reach out to, even though you may not know them, they may not be your friends. We're surrounded by people, especially with a phone and the internet and social media. Reach out to people. Kevin Hines, he jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco and survived. He's now a suicide prevention advocate, and he says he still has suicidal thoughts to this day, but he says he knows he will never act on them because he says he instantly regretted jumping the instant he jumped. As soon as his hands left the rail and he fell, he said, "I want to live. I want to live." And so many other people who've jumped off that bridge have said the exact same thing. Instant regret. He says, even though he has suicidal thoughts to this day, he knows he will never act on them because he knows he really, underneath all that, wants to live. He's got things in place to help him. One of the things is, he says if he's having trouble, still to this day, he will say to someone, his wife or someone close to him, even strangers. He's gone up to strangers in airports, and this is what he says. He says, "I need help now." And that's what he says. "I need help now." That's what he starts with it. And he gets people's attention and he gets the help he needs. And he knows that's one of the tools in his toolbox. So keep hanging in there. 10 seconds at a time, say, "I need help now." There are things you can do. And educate yourself. Try to take your recovery into your own hands. Be your own advocate, as hard as that is. Please try to do that. And I'm rooting for you. So if you're struggling with mental illness today, I want to say, I think you're doing the best you can. Hang in there. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. And for those watching it later, thanks for watching it later. Have a good night, everybody.